Welcome to another video. Today's video I'm going to be continuing to work on my 2012 Ford Mustang, getting this quarter panel getting ready to install. Stay tuned.
Music bed.
So today I'm gonna get started by cutting a little bit more on this panel here. So I did get the window off and I got the mostly like the inner frame out of there, so it's a lot lighter. What I'm gonna do is take this plastic piece off, which at the same time I'm gonna figure out how this comes off so that way I can take it off the car over there. And then I'm gonna just go ahead and cut this probably right at this corner here. Get rid of that part because that's not going to be replaced. And then I'm going to figure out here at the bottom, which I'm thinking on the actual car there, I'm going to cut around here. So I'm probably going to cut right around here on this car just to kind of get rid of that little bit extra. From there, I'll start cutting underneath and also all the spot welds here, just to start getting ready to pull the skin off of the inside. This is going to take a little bit of time because I'm going to have to start cutting a little bit farther in and then cut backwards because I want to keep some of this fender well together. And then up here I'll start drilling the spot welds here along where the glass is. I don't need any of this or the inside of the quarter except here. So this is gonna stay pretty much as it is here on the outside all the way to the seam here, which I'm gonna cut a little bit extra as of now, probably just right here. And then once I have it here next to this piece, I'll start, fine cutting everything. So I'm gonna get that going here. So it's gonna be just mostly a lot of cutting, so I'm gonna work on that for a while, then I'll come back and show what progress I made. It's just gonna take quite a bit of time. The nice thing is, like I can see here, I do see some clips in there where this is held on. So it looks like the rubber just kind of comes out like that out of this channel, which is neat. And then it looks like this channel has some bolts and a couple clips in there actually, so you can see if you needed to take this off of your car, it does have like a clip here in the corner, so be careful there. But pretty much just comes off. When you get to this part here, there's clip there, looks like, and another there. I'll get my little piece to pry it off, so that's not too bad. Now it does look like on this car I'm gonna have to take the whole thing out, that plastic piece that holds the rubber gasket all the way to the front, which is good because I'm probably gonna end up painting this all the way here so you don't see the color change over here. So, or not color change, but sometimes new paint and old paint, they look a little different. So it's good that I can take this off and paint it all the way in, so that way there's not an edge here. So that makes it a little bit better work. And so with that being said, another idea is to actually paint this door and even this fender, because then you won't see a difference between the panels. Maybe here on top, but that's a little bit easier to kind of blend it than to just stop right at the edge. Sometimes also when you blend it this way, you can kind of see a little bit, so I'll have to see, but that won't be till I'm ready for paint, so that's a long ways from now. Let me get going on this, start cutting quite a bit of stuff, and then we'll check back. Okay, just a little bit of progress. Got the molding off, cut this here, and this is just a rough cut. I think it's gonna be I'm gonna end up cutting it around here, you know, somewhere around this area. But this is, you know, takes rid of some of that extra weight. Same at the bottom. And then here's gonna be somewhere here, but I don't wanna cut this piece yet, just to kind of keep it intact. On these here, so just take off the bolts. They're a little Torx bit, and let me see. It's a T15. I will advise that once you take the bolts off, don't pull on the inside here, because then it breaks apart. If you see, there's kind of two pieces to this plastic molding. There's the outer and the inner, or outer and inner, however you want to say it. But if you pull on this part to take it out of the car, it's gonna just break where these little plastic welds are and come apart. Now when you put it back together, I mean, with the bolts, it'll kind of go back in place, but best bet is to get behind here, because there's double-sided tape a little bit, and just pry it all together. That way it doesn't come apart. So just a little tip there. I got this one off as well. Now these are trash. The drip railing, it kind of slides backwards once you know, if you don't have the glass, but some of these little clips are just glued into the body, so if you pry it up, instead of them just coming off, like the molding coming off of them, it just breaks them off. It looks like they had some double-sided tape maybe. So do with that as you will. If you need to take this piece off, like I said, it seems like they, I mean, they're supposed to be like, this ones are supposed to be in there, but I don't see where. Like this one didn't have anything that it was clipped on there. This one's look like they go all the way through, so maybe you can just pull it up and you're just gonna have to glue like this one back in there. But it does clip right back in there. So, you know, if you need to remove that, I'm not gonna remove that on the car here. I don't think, if I do, I'll have to be very careful to pry it. I mean, maybe for the paint, it might be a good idea to remove it and just get the paint all the way in there. So if I do that, then I'll just have to glue one of those or a few of those clips back in there. So we'll see once we get to this side. But anyways, I'm just gonna clean this up with the wire brush and then start drilling all the spot welds everywhere. I'm gonna also take the little door striker. That has to come off because it probably bolts all the way through. Maybe it doesn't, but just to be sure, I'll take it off and start drilling all these spot welds all around here, pretty much all the way till here. Once I'm at this point, I'll have to cut down here like I mentioned before, so let me work on that and then I'll get some progress. All right, got some progress here on the quarter panel, so went ahead and took all the inner pieces off. This is pretty much what it looks like. I did lay it on the side to finish cutting some of the pieces here. So now at this point, it's pretty light. I mean, I can pick it up with one hand easily. It is a little bit bulky, so, but I just want to be careful. You know, I'm gonna have to straighten up the flange here, sand it on both sides a little bit. Same here where the back window is. And I did cut as much of the fender well. As you can see, that's a pretty good amount where, you know, I cut pretty much all the way here. And then I went up here to about here. So I really can, from the way I cut it, I can cut this where I can weld pretty much this here on the fender well all the way down here. There is some of this foam and there's some down there, so that's just a little bit harder to take it apart because it's all glued there. So and I'll have to buy some foam. They sue 3M makes like the seam sealer and the panel adhesive. They make the foam that this is what they use here. So I'll have to buy a tube of that. And but my plan now is to weld along here on the fender well. And as you can see, I mean, I have pretty much almost all the way out here, which I may, just because of this little structure piece, come right around it and just weld here. I mean, I can take these spot welds off. I did cut the 3 holes over there, which kind of will match, but at least I can weld this to that fender well from underneath. So that's the good thing. But I can go here, and then the plan is, let's see if this goes all the way about here. And it goes into that part. So I do have this piece, which I could, in theory, to make it easier to weld, cut it right around this edge here. So I could just go up and then cut right here. I can go in from the inside and from the bottom. Well, here, and then I have all the way here to this little point. So I can either cut this here, which I might end up doing that because I can just weld this piece here on the inside, you know, grind it, put some paint on it, and then just weld here on top as well, kind of, you know, straighter than what that is there, but somewhere along here. And I can also get from the inside and weld here. I can also do it from the bottom. The nice thing about doing that is this corner that's a little bit mangled up, I can have a new piece. All this will be replaced with that piece over there, all the way to, we have about here, which same thing, I can cut it, weld here on the outside, on the inside. And you know, this stuff you really don't see, has all the panels on the inside of the car, things like that, but I'm also not gonna leave it where, you know, you have big welds there. I'll weld it maybe, you know, up here, and then just sand it really well here from the inside, so it still looks nice. The only thing is this kind of primer paint, it's kind of brown. I don't know if I can match this, so I would just have to do maybe regular primer and then blue, but it's no big deal. As you can see, this car has actually some white paint more on the inside than that one has blue, so it just kind of depends on the vehicle. But that was a lot of work, just because at this point I had to really take my time, make sure I'm not bending things, because I'm gonna have to reuse all this stuff. I can't just, you know, cut everywhere. Same with now, I already cut this here, which is good. I'm gonna actually start, you know, taking this molding off. And then I did already do pretty much those spot welds there. I have to take the bottom trim off, take that piece off, and then cut this, you know, around here. Do the spot welds on the bottom, taking that piece of foam, or at least pulling. The nice thing about this is I can cut this and peel it off in pieces, because this is all trash. That one I just had to take a lot of time to make sure I didn't damage anything. The bolts actually bolt onto the inner quarter per se, so I'll take those off. The quarter just kind of slides out of the way. They're bolted onto the inside, so that's going to be a good way to also put those bolts to line it up. And then, you know, once I get to start cutting here, I'm going to have to just really take my time of cutting very little at a time, so that I don't cut too much off. But that's how it goes. I mean, it's just, you know, taking your time. What I really like about kind of keeping this whole corner as, you know, replace it like that, is rather than, you know, all those small pieces that are all welded and seam sealed, I can really just, you know, even here, which I don't think I'll go all the way in here, but maybe, but I can just cut this kind of to here and then straight like I did there, take that kind of rubber piece off, weld there. I can put some of that sound deadening in there, but all that, it just stays factory kind of welded. Here, Rocket. As well as this piece here. I mean, this is, you know, I may cut it just kind of straight here and just keep all of that with the fender well and everything from this piece. So that's just, it's a little bit more work, but it also will look nicer. It will be a better job at the end. So obviously if this was a shop, you would probably get new pieces. Actually, being that this is the inner structure and you have to pretty much take so much off of this car, I don't think a shop really would repair this. They would just say, you know, this is a total loss, move on. So just a few things there, but I think where I'm at, I mean, I cut all the way down here, and so I may just same thing, cut this here to there, just kind of keep it, you know, cut this here straight with that piece, and then just go here and weld it there. So the only thing is here on this little area, because of the foam, I'm gonna try to just cut right at the end here, and I can take that seatbelt pocket and get the gun to put that foam in here. So I know when I weld, this is gonna want to catch on fire a little bit. So I'll have to be careful, but I also don't wanna weld so much in here on this point. I think I'm gonna try to do it right at the edge. So we'll see. It's still, as I'm working on it, I kind of change things because, you know, I figure this is probably better. So I may change all of these things that I'm talking about. But next, so I'm gonna lift up the front, pull that molding off on the bottom, and then start taking this off and start taking the rest of this coater off. At that point, I can maybe even put that kind of in here, mark exactly where I'm gonna cut. I know this, I'm gonna cut at least to here right away, and just start kind of figuring out with that piece on top. So let me work on that. Once I start test fitting, then I'll put the camera and just kind of set it. But right now I was just cutting and, you know, trying to do all that stuff, which just takes time. It's a lot of tedious work, and that's really what it looks like after you spend all that time cutting. So let me get working on this, and then once I get this piece pretty much ready to pull off, I'll show you kind of where I'm pulling it off. Okay, so I just went ahead and took the bottom molding off, just raised the front of the car so I got a little bit better access down there, and then I finished all the spot welds and just cut this piece right straight down for now. I did get the spot welds out of there, and actually that piece came off super very easy. The nice thing about this, like I mentioned before, is, you know, I've been cutting it in pieces, so I was able to just go in here and break the foam. That came off a lot easier. I may just cut it. There's this kind of piece of styrofoam kind of in there. I may just cut this all the way because I can put it back in there and then put the new foam after I weld, just because when you're welding, you know, this stuff here close to there might want to catch on fire. Same with this thing here. I may actually just cut it here off and then put it in there and put the foam in there after it's all welded in there. But this piece came off fairly easy. Like I mentioned before, pry it from the back, don't pull on the piece that's kind of on top, and it came off pretty easy. The double-sided tape is more like a gasket, so, you know, water doesn't go behind. So I may put a little bit of the weather stripping adhesive when I put it back, just a really small bead, just that way water doesn't want to go in there, as precaution. Once I got this also, I believe the crease was a little bit higher because I was gonna cut up here, but I think it was because of that piece was wrinkled that it was making this have the crease here. But it looks like it expanded, even looking at it from the side. Really, I can't see much of anything. Besides, when I weld this here, I'm gonna have to put a piece of tape and just cut it, you know, really straight. But when I weld this, I'm gonna obviously sand the paint. And I did get that tool from my friend. Shout out to him for lending it to me. I'm gonna try it on the piece of metal here. It's supposed to make the like indentation, so I'm gonna try to do on the new quarter, cut it a little bit longer, at least maybe one piece here, but at least here, and make it kind of like a little step like this, so it goes behind just slightly. But I'll have to weld and then grind. And there's probably going to be a very, very small amount of body filler in here, just so I can make it straight, you know, just kind of put it in there. So if there's a little bit of a slight dent in here, I'll just skim it with body filler and that should be good. So that's pretty good to go. I do have to cut this a little bit farther this way as well. But like I mentioned before, it's better to cut less than, you know, you're kind of cut too much. So really at this point, I think I'm gonna come in here and just cut this here, at least right in this corner, all the way down. And then I'm gonna see if I can put this kind of as close as I can in here and see where I need to trim with the piece on there. So I may also, I think, knowing from that one that I have all of this, I may just cut this straight down here and cut this off because I know it's gonna go past that. So a few things that I gotta do now. I mean, it seems, you know, this video is kind of short, but I've been here like half a day already and this is all I done. It just takes time. So let me see what I do next. Really, I cleaned up all the other scrap pieces out of here too. I'm gonna vacuum all this dirt and metal shavings, and then see what I start working on next, and then I'll show you all what progress I'm making. Like I said, more than likely I'm just gonna cut this at least from right here for sure, pretty close to where all this damage is, and then right in the corner here, probably all the way through down. And knowing that this part is on that other piece, I'm probably also gonna cut here and then just get this kind of piece that's pretty bent all cut out. The frame here is good, except right here at the end it's a little bent, so I'm gonna, this piece goes over the frame, so I'm gonna take the piece that goes over the top of it and then straighten up this little tabs, you know, cut this off. And then I think at that point, I probably am gonna cut this as well, so I'll have to come in here and probably cut at least here for now. And we'll, you know, take off the weld from the bottom, cut that off, and then I can start trying to put this on top. I am gonna cut this as well, so I'll cut it a little bit longer and a little bit longer up here, just so that way I can put it on top and start really measuring exactly where I need to cut. So let me start working on that, and then I'll let you know what progress I made. Okay, so a little bit of an update. I went ahead and cut this piece off, which is what's got the most damage in there. I also cut this off, so I did the spot welds and cut the back piece off, as well as here on the old one, I went ahead and cut the frame that was, the frame piece that was attached to it off. I can't kind of put it on there yet, just because this inner fender is still on here, and so I started cutting it. So, you know, I changed what I'm doing again. I'm gonna cut this off now. I'm doing it by cutting the spot welds on this one, and just because in case I do need to use a piece or anything, it's not just cut randomly. I was able to pretty much bend this pretty good. Where it's gotta be, I gotta give it a little bit of a rounded edge, but that's kind of where I'm probably gonna cut that one. I'm still kind of deciding though. Once I take this off, I may actually cut this piece and just weld it that way. this piece here on the back, same thing, you know, I want to replace this little corner, which is in there. So I'm still just kind of cutting as I go. I know here on the bottom, I don't think I want to cut all the way down on the inside, but on the outside here, I can cut pretty much where I cut on the car there, kind of straight up towards this way. But I may cut further in here on the car as well. I'll have to kind of, same thing, kind of put it in there and figure it out. So just a little bit more progress. I did cut this top piece off here as well. And so really, I just, it's just a lot of individual pieces here on this corner that I really don't want to cut and do them individually. So that's why I wanted to cut here on top, which I think that's the way I'm gonna go. I was just kind of looking and see what the best bet was. And I don't have a lot of material here, and that's my own fault. I did cut all this off, but I can cut, you know, kind of this straight here and then across, and same thing here, just kind of cut it across here and get rid of this whole piece, so I don't have to spot weld it here to the car. I can just weld it here on the bottom from the top, and I can do it from the bottom here through that axis. So kind of still, you know, I'm being cautious at this point just to not cut too much and then have to kind of work backwards. Same with this here. So, you know, I have the back piece, which I think this back piece, I'm gonna leave it. That's why I'm gonna take this off, but that's where, you know, I kind of want to figure out where I want to cut. This, I mean, it's pretty much where it has to be, so, you know, I can kind of leave that corner there and just grind this down where it was supposed to be spot welded, and just spot weld here at the bottom. And I may just do that and then just cut it right here at the edge. So I'm still kind of figuring that out, but I'm gonna keep going and see what we decide next. Okay, so there's been quite a bit of cutting, fine cutting everything to get it close. So I cut all this. This here, it still has to be cut a little bit more. And right now I'm just trying to figure out where I'm gonna cut down here a little bit more, just to kind of fit this on there, so I can push it in from the top, but I want to be able to kind of push it in all together. So I'm gonna just mark. So I think this piece here, I'm just gonna cut a little bit more here. As of right now, it's pretty close, so I'm gonna cut this little piece off straight, and then this, I'm just gonna go from here kind of in, almost where this kind of gray line is, right about here. And I'm gonna cut this one as well, but I'm just gonna cut pretty much probably this stud for now, so I can push it in and kind of start lining up everything. Here on the bottom, I mean, it's going to kind of line up a little bit more. So once I push that in, I can match it more. So it's just a bunch of small cuts. I did take that inner piece that I cut, but I cut it with the spot weld, so that way if I do need to use any of that, I can. It's just a lot of tedious work at this point because, you know, like I mentioned probably a million times, I don't want to cut too much. So I'm gonna make those couple cuts and then we'll see how it fits after that. So this went in a lot better. Now that I cut the stud on there and cut a little bit more. So pretty much at this point, it's almost all the way here where it's gotta be. There's just a little bit, I have to push it more, but that's not bad at all. And then here at the door, it's pretty much all the way. Only up here, I do need to go about maybe half an inch. And it's just, you know, I slid it under this other piece that I cut, but I'm gonna cut a little bit underneath and I'll just stitch weld it here a little bit. just so it goes a little bit farther in. There's a few layers on this corner here, and so it's just not letting it go all the way. So you can see it needs maybe like half an inch. Same as, I mean, that's gonna make it here on the bottom go in about half an inch. That's all it needs. And then once I do that, so this is, I split this open so that way I can kind of put it over it, and I can mark exactly where I need to cut both sides to weld them together. So that's pretty close there. I'm gonna just take it off and cut this bit here on the trunk panel, and then, or on the, yeah, I guess here where the trunk is, and I'll put it back in there, see what it looks like, but it's getting a lot closer. Okay, I went ahead and got this quarter panel all kind of fit up. So I did use a C-clamp to get it tight here to this seam, and I just put the striker back on so that I'm able to close the door. I still have a few things to do. I'm gonna take this whole thing off. I just wanted to kind of fit it now, but I'm gonna put tape here and cut the blue part on the car there to match the quarter. This one, I got it pretty close. Not the best work here, it's a little bit off. And then I was able to actually push it and get it over kind of the edge so it matches. I think I just need to get my dolly and hammer it closer, but I do need to shave all the spot welds, and that should go pretty flat there to match the car. It's pretty good here, it's just up here. It needs to go slightly down, but right now it's just hitting a little bit here on the bottom. So I just gotta cut that slightly, and once I shave these, you know, clamp it down really close, that should match. And then I'll weld that, grind it, put a little bit of Bondo. I did scratch this a little bit, you know, I'll try to put it on. And then same thing there, I'm gonna put a piece of tape on the car, cut it to match the quarter, but the door closes nice, like it did before. Really, it was closing before, but the gap is the same, so about 1/4 inch gap here. Before up here it was maybe 3/8, so it was a little bit wider. And then, I mean, the tire, everything looks good. I put the trunk on there, and so this lines up really good. 1/4 inch gap, same as this side here. Everything here just kind of matched pretty well, so I just have to mark everything where I want to do the final cut before I take it off. So I'll take my time and mark it with tape and Sharpie really good. Same on the tire well. And then take it off one more time, cut everything, and then put it back on, mock everything again, make sure if it's good, and then start welding. I do have to clean all of the spot welds where I actually drilled those out. But that's it for this video. It's looking a lot like a car. So right now, I mean, if I have the back bumper on there, I could take it out. Even though it's white, it's a complete car, so it's not bad. We're gonna continue with the next video. It's probably gonna be taking this off again, cutting one last time, putting it back, fitting it everywhere, you know, make sure the door shuts, the trunk is good. I'll probably even put the seal just to make sure. I'll get a tail light just to make sure, although, I mean, if the trunk fits, the tail light should fit. And then start welding it a little at a time. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, leave them below. Subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.